Okay, in this video we're just going to talk about shooting HDR photos on Panasonic Lumix cameras, and it's a question I get asked quite a lot by people, sort of, can you shoot HDR photos on Lumix cameras? And it's a little bit of a muddy kind of answer, but I'll do my best to kind of explain it. And the main reason for that is because through the generations of cameras, things have kind of changed quite a lot. So just as a kind of overview preface, like a HDR photo is generally like a method used to capture images that have got kind of detail retained in the highlight and shadow areas that otherwise wouldn't be possible in one shot. So we've got like a quick example here of like where you might use one. So the inside of the room can be exposed, and then the outside is all kind of blown out in the highlights. And in this particular picture, you know, we kind of want to show that the outside has got like some water there. So when we expose to the outside, then you can see the inside room is way underexposed. So to get both of them in there, we're going to need to use sort of a couple of images or multiple images to kind of make that work, and we'll have to kind of merge some different exposures together. And this is something that we're really used to on our phones, and you know, things like drones do it. It's just one button that you press, you take the pictures, and then you don't even think about it. You just get HDR images kind of there ready for you to just export and do what you want with. And on Lumix cameras, we've kind of got, if we're in the video mode, we can actually go to the menu, and you can kind of see in there we've got this HLG option, so that's hybrid log gamma, which is for HDR. And I've kind of gone into a lot more detail about that in this video, so I'll link to that and kind of explain how you can use it and where you can use it and all those different things. But this is just in the video mode. So when you switch into the photo mode and then we try to go back into the picture profile, you can see that that's actually gone now. But on some older cameras like the S1 and the S1R, they actually had introduced a photo mode called HLG photo. And that allowed you to shoot basically in-camera HDR images. And then as the kind of cameras progressed, they sort of changed the way things worked. And in the newer version of the cameras, they introduced a new feature that was called, if I can find it, should be in this first menu. We've got dynamic range boost. And the GH6, this camera here, was the first one to kind of introduce this. And it's editable for video, so I can turn it on and off for video, and it changes the ISO ranges. For photo, it's kind of built in, it's just kind of there, and it just works when it can, essentially. And that's the same on all the other newer cameras as well. So, you know, the new S series cameras, the G9 Mark II, they all have this kind of dynamic range boost or DR boost function, but it's just kind of built in and it just works itself. You don't actually need to do anything for it. So it's just kind of there in the background doing that. And then if the dynamic range from that is not enough, what you can actually do is, if you're in the photo modes, you can actually also do exposure compensation, and you can find that there. So it's under the camera and then another camera icon with the kind of 3 dots under it, and that's the bracketing option. And I've gone into that in much more detail in this video. So essentially what that will do is you can set it and it will take multiple shots at different exposures. So you kind of pick the middle ground exposure and it'll go a few stops under, a few stops over, for example, and then you can merge all of that together. But the thing with it is a manual process. There did actually used to be an in-camera merging feature on some of the kind of cameras, but that got removed. And I think probably because a lot of people that take shots like that, they generally want to have a bit of kind of control on how they do it. But you can kind of see that you've got the exposure bracketing option, and there's different sort of types of settings for it. But the with that, like I say, you do have to take it out and you've got to kind of do that extra work to it. So what you can do, there is a way to kind of automate those, and that's sort of the way I work when I have to shoot images like that. You can automate the HDR, and for a lot of images it works. Some of them you have to go back and kind of manually do, but I'll leave a video up in the corner for that, sort of how you can do all of that in Lightroom. And then kind of finally, I see a lot of people saying that you can do things like, let me see if I can find it. I don't actually use this feature, but you can use things like the eye dynamic feature, which is in here. So I don't ever used this. I can't really remember where it is, but essentially iDynamic, what it does is it allows you to you kind of shoot the image, and then what it will do is pull the sort of the clipped highlights and the very darkest of the shadows. It will kind of pull the highlights down a little and pull the shadows up a little, and it will bring the highlights in a little. So it looks like you've kind of got more kind of dynamic range in there than you started with, but it's not really doing anything beyond what the image is. So, you know, it's just using that same image. You can do all of that in, you know, any photo editor. It's not doing anything additional. It's not capturing any more information. So in my opinion, you know, it's not doing anything HDR. There's nothing kind of there extra happening. It's just doing a little bit of editing for you. But yeah, hopefully that kind of helped explain some of it. I know it's a little bit messy. It's just that's kind of the way it is on the cameras. It'd be nice if there was just a simple little button that was just kind of like, you know, just have a HDR merge. But unfortunately, that's not kind of the way it works on the cameras. It's not set up in that way. But if you've got any questions about it, feel free to kind of drop them in the comments. If you want to see more Lumix tutorials, check out the playlist on this channel. And please subscribe.